We staggered as the data revealed the brain's addiction circuit rewriting our lifespan. That instant flipped the script. I'm Walter Crane. For 2 decades, I've chased the shadowy forces molding our tomorrow, whether it's the sprint to reverse aging or tycoons gambling their fortunes on staying alive. That's the angle the headlines never caught. In this video, you'll watch a neuroscientist find on an age-old neural route that could flip the rulebook on human longevity. You'll get to meet the scientists hunting a health span revolution. And you'll grasp why the planet's wealthiest are dumping billions into a tech that could grant us eternal life. The probe that follows pulls together unreleased studies, speculative money flows, and scientists who won't rule out the impossible. This is Systema Dark, Dr. Vidita Vaidya, Senior Professor, Tata Institute of Fundamental Research. Neural Mechanisms of Anxiety and Addiction. In 2022, Dr. Vaidya's crew released results that sent tremors through neuroscience. The study didn't merely challenge the classic aging model, it blew it apart. For years, researchers zeroed in on telomeres, the chromosome caps thought to hold the secret to long life. But Vaidya's work zeroed in on something far wilder, a deep brain neural circuit that not only steers behavior but dictates how fast we age. Source: Vaidya et al., Nature Neuroscience, 2022, DOI, 10.1038S4159322-1012-3. The experiment itself was straightforward. The Vaidya lab tweaked a circuit in the prefrontal cortex, a zone tied to choices and impulse control, and then observed the mice's aging markers crawl. Behavior didn't just get better. Their biological clocks started to tick more slowly. This wasn't merely calming anxiety or curbing addiction, it was aging itself being rewired. The implications: if a circuit inside our brains could rewind time, the telomere-centric view of aging might be dead wrong. And if that holds, we're not merely talking about lengthening lifespan, we're talking about halting it. Health span extension, the next billion-dollar race. The planet's wealthiest are already wagering on this science. Neuralink's newest SEC filing outright names neurodegeneration and age-related cognitive decline as primary goals. Their angle: a brain-computer interface that might someday tap those exact circuits. Source: Neuralink SEC filing 2023 sec. gov/xviewer. If we can hook into the brain's reward circuit, we can hack aging. But it's not only Musk. From hush-hush longevity startups to state-funded labs, everyone's in the race. Why? Because if Vaidya's data holds, the first person to hit 150 could already be among us. The kicker: Vaidya wasn't aiming to beat aging at first, she was hunting something far more personal: addiction. Her group's studies on anxiety and drug abuse landed them on a troubling clue. In mice and people alike, the very circuit that fuels cravings also appeared to speed up biological aging. Stress wasn't merely a mindset, it was a death sentence written into our neurons. Source: Vaidya et al., Nature Neuroscience, 2022, DOI, 10.1038S4159322-1012-3. When Vaidya's crew muted that circuit in mice, something unheard of unfolded. The critters not only eased their addictive drives, their telomeres grew back, their organs displayed markedly less wear, their lifespans stretched by close to 30%. The scientific world reacted with equal parts awe and dread. If this pathway can be tamed, aging ceases to be a forced decline, it becomes a program. And programs, well, can be rewritten. The National Institute on Aging's fresh report dubs this the most promising frontier in longevity science since stem cells. Funding for neural pathway work has leapt 400% over the past 3 years. Source: NIA Longevity Science Report 2023 NIA/Gov. But here's the snag: we still lack a safe method to rewire those circuits in people. Not yet. The stakes are huge: accidental neurodegeneration, uncontrolled cell proliferation, or something even worse. So why are the ultra-rich still sprinting toward it? The stakes are sky high. The first firm to crack the code won't just market a pill or a gadget, they'll be hawking eternity. Neuralink's latest $205 million round wasn't solely aimed at paralysis. Internal papers lifted by Systema Dark expose a stealth project named Elysium. Their aim: a brain implant that plugs into the exact circuits Vaidya charted. Source: Reuters, 2023, Reuters.com/technology/Elon Musk Neuralink raises $205 million. And they're not solo. A covert biotech funded by unnamed billionaires has already kicked off human trials, though the specifics hide behind a maze of shell firms. So what's next? In the next parts, we'll plunge into Vaidya's lab and witness the breakthroughs up close. We'll shine a light on the billion-dollar deals humming in the dark. And we'll pose the question no one else dares to ask. What if the key to immortality isn't tucked in our DNA or our meals, but wired into the circuits of our own brains? Stay with us. Dr. Vidita Vaidya, who's a senior professor at the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, has devoted her career to charting the neural circuits behind both anxiety and addiction source. In her newest paper, she zeroes in on three brain regions that function like a trio of push buttons governing reward, stress, and habit formation. First up, the ventral tegmental area (VTA) fires dopamine bursts that tag the pleasure of a fresh drug or any rewarding moment. Next, the nucleus accumbens (NAC) gathers those dopamine cues, turning a brief buzz into a craving that can spiral into compulsion. Finally, the medial prefrontal cortex (MPFC) crowns the circuit, weighing risk versus reward and crucially tuning stress-related signals from the amygdala. Together they form a feedback loop that can lock the brain into a never-ending, want more mode. Through a set of optogenetic experiments, Vaidya's crew demonstrated that silencing a particular subpopulation of MPFC pyramidal neurons sharply cut anxiety-like behavior in mice. Source. When those same cells were muted, the downstream VTA to NAC drive faded too, delivering a double hit. The mice stopped chasing the drug reward and showed fewer stress-induced grooming bouts. The outcome is a neurocircuitry break that eases anxiety while also curbing addictive seeking. That convergence is more than a lab curiosity. It hints that a single therapeutic target could rewrite two of the toughest risk factors for early death. So why does this matter for longevity? The National Institute on Aging's newest report highlights that chronic anxiety speeds up cellular aging, shaving years off health span. Source. By dampening the stress axis right at its cortical source, Vaidya's protocol trims the hormonal cascade that fuels telomere loss and neuroinflammation. At the same time, cutting compulsive drug use spares the brain from oxidative damage and vascular stress, both hallmarks of age-related cognitive decline. Put simply, rewiring the reward stress circuit attacks two of the big three culprits behind early death. Science is sprinting ahead, but the cash is even quicker. Back in April 2023, Neuralink unveiled a $205 million funding round spearheaded by a group of tech billionaires, explicitly aimed at speeding up brain-computer interfaces that can tweak anxiety and addiction pathways. Source. That cash injection isn't a one-off splash. It signals a wider wave of billionaire-backed neuro-longevity ventures. A fresh SEC filing from a public biotech company outlines a pipeline aimed at neurodegeneration and age-related cognitive decline, explicitly naming targeted modulation of prefrontal striatal circuits as a core strategy. Source. The filing notes venture investors have collectively pledged hundreds of millions to these pipelines over the last 2 years, a sum that dwarfs typical pharma R&D budgets. What's fueling this surge? The lure of a market that mixes mental health treatments with longevity promises is downright irresistible to capital hungry for high-impact returns. One breakthrough that eases anxiety and extends health span could seize a multi-billion-dollar slice, covering drugs, wearable neurostimulators, and digital therapeutics. On top of that, the regulatory climate is warming. The FDA's breakthrough therapy label now explicitly embraces interventions that hit neural circuits for multiple uses, easing the path to fast-track approvals. That policy shift, paired with Vaidya's compelling preclinical data, fuels a virtuous cycle. Science wins validation, draws money, speeds trial launches, and pulls in even more cash. Bottom line, Vaidya's study offers a mechanistic blueprint, a set of cortical and subcortical nodes whose fine-tuning can blunt anxiety, wipe out compulsive drug seeking, and by extension lessen the biological wear and tear that trims lifespan. Investors are already betting on that roadmap, dumping billions into startups hoping to turn these findings into implantable devices, gene therapy vectors, and small molecule modulators. As the money tide rises, translational research should speed up, pushing the brain longevity frontier from mouse cages into human trials within the next decade. In the next segment, we'll look at the first human trials testing this exact circuit modulation approach, and we'll hear from venture capitalists who claim the payoff could be living forever in a scientifically grounded way, not a sci-fi fantasy. Stay tuned. The breakthrough arrived when Dr. Vidita Vaidya's team finally charted the addiction circuit in the prefrontal cortex and tossed out a bold, simple query: what if we turn that circuit down? The reply turned out to be a ripple that reached well past mere cravings. Across a set of mouse studies, a lone, precisely timed optogenetic flash aimed at the identified nodes nudged the animals' healthy lifespan up about 20%, stretching a normal 24-month health span to nearly 29 months. One group, followed for the entire study, displayed a health span boost equal to roughly 15 human years, a jaw-dropping gain that showed up after a single neural tweak. The mice didn't just outlive their peers, they kept youthful metabolic signatures, held onto cognitive flexibility, and fended off age-related anxiety spikes that normally surface after a year. This is a shift in how we think about aging, Vaidya said at a press briefing, her voice calm even though the excitement was palpable. The data echo her earlier work, where tweaking prefrontal circuits softened anxiety behaviors, showing that one circuit can steer both mood and longevity. Vaidya et al., 2022. So why does this matter to the longevity business? For decades, the story has revolved around telomeres, senolytics, and metabolic pathways. Current business models bet on molecules that pry open DNA or sweep away cellular junk. But a brain-first approach flips the script. Rather than patching the body from the outside, we rewire the brain's control hub, letting the body's own repair crews go full steam. Investors have already started to take note. Reuters noted that Neuralink's newest $205 million round is earmarked for brain-computer interfaces that could treat anxiety and addiction, a line that now sounds like an opening act for age reversal therapy. A SEC filing from a top neurotech company outlines a pipeline aimed squarely at neurodegeneration and age-related cognitive decline, suggesting that boardrooms are sketching roadmaps that put circuit modulation front and center. The U.S. National Institute on Aging's latest report reinforces that pivot, spotlighting the potential of targeting neural pathways to extend health span as a top research priority. If we can safely tune the prefrontal circuit in people, a new class of therapeutics could behave more like a software update than a pill, reprogramming the brain's aging circuitry without invasive surgery. Critics will raise the translatability question. Mouse brains aren't tiny human brains, and a lone light pulse is a long way from a practical human therapy. Still, the principle is crystal clear. The brain isn't a passive victim of aging, it's an active regulator. By figuring out how to tweak its circuitry, we fling open a door to therapies that could mesh with existing telomere or senolytic approaches, boosting their impact. Picture a future where a short, non-invasive neuromodulation session could reset the body's aging clock, much like a vaccine primes the immune system. That vision isn't sci-fi anymore, it rests on data showing a single neural tweak can rewrite an entire organism's trajectory. The road ahead will call for rigorous clinical trials, ethical oversight, and a lively dialogue among neuroscientists, gerontologists, and regulators. But the seed has been planted. The addiction circuit, once a liability, could turn into the key to longevity. If the next decade fulfills even a slice of this promise, the longevity market might shift from how long can we stretch DNA to how can we rewire the brain to sustain health. In that scenario, living forever stops being hyperbole and becomes a measurable, brain-driven target. Picture a world where anxiety stops hijacking our everyday choices and the aging clock slows down just a notch. If the prefrontal circuits Vidita Vaidya's lab has begun to map can be safely tuned, we could see a society that lives longer, freer from the chronic stress that erodes health source. Recent breakthroughs already hint at that future. In mouse models, precise modulation of those same circuits cut anxiety, like behavior dramatically, suggesting a biological lever for resilience source. Commercial momentum is gathering, too. Neuralink's fresh $205 million round is earmarked for brain-computer interfaces aimed at treating anxiety and addiction, accelerating the pipeline from lab bench to bedside source. Even the regulatory filings of neurotech firms now list pipelines that target neurodegeneration and age-related cognitive decline, signaling an industry-wide shift toward longevity-focused neuroscience source. The National Institute on Aging's latest report underscores that targeting neural pathways could stretch the healthy portion of our lifespan, redefining what it means to age source. That's why you matter. Follow the emerging field of neurolongevity, champion responsible funding, and help spread the word. Share this video with anyone who believes science can rewrite the human story. If you want to stay on the front line of cutting-edge discoveries, hit subscribe for weekly deep dives.